Mr. Steyer, can you please review your professional qualifications in the field of traffic engineering?
Yes, Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degree.
Mr. Alonso, unless you want to do it for Trinity, Mr. Steiger has appeared in front of this board many times, has been accepted as qualified. Do you have any voir dire or anything, Mr. Weiner? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept it. I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
No.
No, that's fine.
He's been here for a time.
I'm tired of hearing it.
I'm glad the board is paying attention to my audio.
We don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Mr. Steiger, was your firm team preparing a traffic and parking analysis in connection with this application?
Yes, in traffic analysis.
Okay. Can you please review your analysis before?
Yes. And it was submitted and with a supplement. The original traffic report was November 22nd, 2011, and then a supplement on December 19th, 2011. It includes traffic counts. We also reviewed a series of traffic counts in the area. We have taken traffic counts in the area in 2006 on Tony Avenue. NJDOT has 2007, 2010 traffic counts, and I also reviewed the Langen traffic report, which was for the Walmart shopping center, which included traffic counts as well as projections. So I think we have a good handle on the volumes of traffic in the area. We concentrated on analyzing the PM peak hour, the rush hours between 4 and 6 p.m., and the Saturday peak hours, the midday peak hours, which is the typically the peak hour of not only the roadway but also of the retail uses in the area, and particularly the existing shopping center. Tunnelly Avenue has about 2,000 vehicles per hour in a two-way volume. This site is connected with the overall, I'll call it BJ's and Walmart shopping center. It has access to the circulation aisles, the parking areas. It also has access to 3 access points on Tunnelly Avenue. There are two traffic signals, one at the southern end and one at the northern end, 85th Street and 91st Street. And as the board sure well knows, we're on the 89th Street intersection with Tunnelly Avenue. 89th Street is a stop control, it's not traffic signal control. I projected the amount of traffic that the retail use will generate based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation rates. I believe that this site is going to be an integral part of the overall shopping center, since it shares the circulation aisles and the access points, and to a major degree will share the parking as well.
I want to put an objection on the record. I know where Mr. Steiger is going. Two things I want to say. First of all, I don't have a problem with the general description that where it is, and the streets. But if the argument here is that it's going to generate the same traffic as the large shopping center, I don't think we have the data here to support that. I think it's a bad opinion. I'll wait to explain that more when it gets there. But second thing is, we had requested, I don't have this supplemental report in front of me. We had requested it, we checked the file a couple of times. Again, this is exactly what I was saying before. Nothing gets sent to us, so it's going to be a little difficult in some regard to cross-examine tonight. I'll do my best, but I would hope the board would give me an opportunity to at least see this report and be able to come back another time. I don't know why.
Do you have another copy of the report?
The December
supplement he hasn't seen.
I have one with me that I can be happy to give.
Yeah, would you give it to him, please?
Thanks.
Okay.
There will.
I understand your objections, but at this point in time.
All right. I may renew it, but because he was going there, I want to put it on the record.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, this was forwarded to the zoning board on December 19th, 2011. So it was part of the application and of the record, which you could have obtained through an open request.
Well, we did, and we didn't get it, so that's what I'm saying. But I don't want to argue about it. Let's give it to you. We'll take a look at it, and I'll see what I can do. And if there's a few questions that I need a little extra time, I'll ask the board. I'll try to go around.
Go ahead, sir.
Yep. Well, first, let me backtrack a little bit. We did do an analysis of the intersection of 89th Street and Tunley Avenue, because we believe that that will be the majority of traffic that will access this site. You can make a right turn into 89th Street from Tunley Avenue. You can make a left turn from Tunley into 89th Street. You can only make a right turn out, which the left turns are restricted from 89th Street to Tunley Avenue. Currently, the intersection operates in the realm of level of service B and C during those peak hours, the PM and Saturday peak hours. And mainly because the left turn exits are prohibited at that location. Where the left turn exits onto Tunley Avenue would be performed by the proposed site would be at the 85th Street intersection that's signalized, or the 91st Street intersection that's signalized. The intersection, again, under existing conditions, has what we call good levels of service, B and C, but also has a quite low VC ratio, volume to capacity ratio. And that's just a ratio of how much traffic can be accommodated by this intersection for the specific movements, and how much traffic is it subjected to. And we're actually less than 50% of what is available. So we have good reserve capacity in terms of traffic and traffic engineering terminology, meaning that it can accept essentially a doubling of traffic during its peak hours. Now, the proposed use, as I said before, I made a projection of how much traffic would be generated by the 17,700 plus or minus square feet of gross floor area of the retail use. And I used the ITE rates. I made some adjustments to those ITE rates, which are compliant with ITE recommendations. We will have what's called internal trips, meaning that since we share access points with the major part of the shopping center, people that will be coming to the site and maybe going to the Walmart or going to other tenants in the main shopping center, I'm not going to leave the site to come back again to the shopping center. What they'll do is they'll stay within the shopping center and visit this site as they go to the other stores in the site. They may drive from point A to point B, or they may decide to walk from point A to point B, depending upon where they park, where they envision where they're going to be shopping, and hopefully, I believe that many people do, will position themselves in a location in the shopping center to be able to walk to one of the other tenants and walk over to one of the proposed tenants. So not to get back in their car and then drive to the parking lot to park again. And so we have internal trips, those vehicles that will come to the site, not specifically for the proposed retail uses, but in conjunction with the shopping center. We're going to have that portion of traffic. Not every vehicle is going to do that, but there's going to be a significant amount. We do have pass-by trips, meaning that we have traffic that's already on the road already, particularly on the peak hours, that would then come to the site, come to the proposed retail, and then leave the site. Not new traffic on Tunley Avenue, but traffic that's already on Tunley Avenue. And then we have the other portion, primary trips. And primary trips are the new trips that would be a destination trip that's coming to that site. When I take all that into consideration and just account for the primary trips, the net increase of traffic vehicles will be in the order of about 50 trips during the PM peak hour and 56 trips during the Saturday peak hour.
Objection. This primary trips, this is based upon certain assumptions about this building generating the same level of traffic that the shopping center would, as if it was part of it. There's no evidence in the record, and he hasn't presented in his report any data on which to base its net opinion that this will operate the same as the center. And frankly, he hasn't even testified to it, so he hasn't really built a foundation for coming up with a number. So if he wants to go through the numbers and say this is how we got here, because he even, Mr. Steiger would admit that the IDE numbers for these uses are much higher, and he's made certain adjustments. So just to say this is the number without explaining it, or without putting in the predicate, is a net opinion.
Mr. Weiner, I would say the following. He talked about the coexistence with the shopping center, the 3 access points. He's laid a sufficient foundation for purposes of this board to talk, and that, subject to your cross-examination, goes to the weight, not the sufficiency.
Well, the reason is because he hasn't testified as he did in the report, where he applied specific numbers and adjustments based upon that. And frankly, the fact that there are 3 streets, there is no recognized ITE or any other engineering standard.
Mr.
All right,
Weiner,
I get your point.
That's cross-examination.
I don't see it that way, but for the record, I believe it's a net opinion, absolutely.
And if I may correct Mr. Weiner, I do provide it in my report. There's several pages, page 4, 5, 6, and 7 deal with what I just testified to.
Just for the record, what I was saying was there are things in the report, that's where I was getting it. You didn't testify to that here. You just, on the record, said this is the number based upon internal circulation, and I said that's way too general. I understand Mr. Deneen's ruling, and I'll ask him questions when we get up later.
And if the board wants me to go through number by number, which was already in my report, I will. I'm giving the overall methodology. I prefer to spare the board going through it because it's all in the report. So, and again, those numbers will be, although I believe the majority of traffic will be added to the intersection of 89th and Tully Avenue, that traffic volume will be spread over 3 access points to the site. DOT, NJDOT, ITE recognizes that when you have an increase of 100 trips per hour at any particular intersection, you have potential for an impact that should be studied extensively. Well, here we've studied it extensively, and we're less than 100 trips per hour. And then when you take the numbers I just gave you, in the order of about 50 to 56 vehicles per hour, trips per hour, and spread that over 3 access points, it even further dilutes what may be an impact or impacts to the surrounding roadway network. So we have good levels of service at the intersection, particularly of 89th and Tully Avenue, that the increase of those volumes would not cause an impact to that intersection, a negative impact. It will still operate at good levels of service. And in fact, when I do the analysis, when I superimpose my traffic, that additional traffic onto that intersection, we remain at levels of service B and C. So again, the fact that we have no negative impact. The second aspect of my testimony, and this is not specifically in the report, is the parking. But I do want to say that under the what I've observed of how this site will operate is that the existing use, the showroom and existing use of the site will have its parking in the front. You have 16 spaces in the front. That will essentially be utilized by the existing use. The 45 spaces that are in the rear of the property will be utilized by the retail that surrounds those spaces. And 45 spaces, the way I looked at it was we had a gross floor area of 17,700 square feet. ITE, and I use the ITE trip generation rates as well as the parking rates. For retail shopping centers, when you have more than one tenant, it uses a net floor area. And net floor area is about 85% of gross floor area. And I use that as a standard, as I find that typical. A lot of non-leasable area or common area accounts for about 15%. And in the industry, of 15% is a usable factor. And so therefore, that brings it down to 15,000 square feet. And again, the ITE parking generation for retail shopping centers, the peak average is 2.94. When I multiply 2.94 times 15, I'm at 45 parking spaces, which is what we show on the site itself. So I believe that the 45 or 45 parking spaces will be adequate during peak times to accommodate the proposed retail. Now, again, just as there's going to be synergy and shared parking between the existing shopping center as well as the proposed shopping center that's part of this application, I believe that there will be some sharing of parking for the two sites, which will even things out as well. So it'll be an integral part in terms of how it'll function of the overall parking of the entire shopping area of this site. So I believe there's adequate parking that's provided for this site as well, and justified, and the parking variance is justified.
Mr. Secretary, just a couple questions. In your testimony, do you incorporate by reference all the information that's contained in both your report and your supplemental report?
Yes.
Because you indicated that it's a lot more thorough detail and analysis in the reports, but in order to split the board, you're incorporating that as part of your basis for your opinion.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to make an objection. I don't have a problem with the reports. He submitted a report, he's made that. But I don't think through his testimony you can incorporate detail on the record. It's either here, it's either in the report or it's not. If he wants to testify to it, he can. But to just say, well, I'm incorporating what's in my report, the report's already here. He's already said it's part of the record.
Well, it is part of the record, and he's referenced it.
Well, so I understand the question. It's already there.
Also, for the record, Mr. McGrath from Boswell Engineering reviewed the report, indicated he has no questions or comments or concerns about it in the letter to the board. And if the council wants to cross-examine him on the details, he can do that.
That's what I told him before. I agree.
Well, that's, Mr. McGrath had a calculation that showed they needed way a lot more parking than they said. So,
Well,
I don't want to get into what Mr. McGrath said, it's in the report, but it shouldn't be making representations that aren't fully accurate.
I'll show you the letter.
listen, we're not, Mr. McGrath's letters have been marked for identification. So they stand on their own factually for what they represent. So we can look at it, you can cross-examine him about it if you think it's necessary, but we do know that Mr. McGrath was provided a copy of the report.
Yeah.
What it says is what his report says, right? Not what Mr. Alonso says.
Well, that's why I object.
Thank
Mr. Secretary, finally, as a traffic engineer, the biggest thing you look for is whether or not there's any degradation in the levels of service.
That's a key factor, yes, in analyzing pre and post conditions.
And in your testimony, you indicated that the levels of service would remain the same.
At the 89th Street intersection, correct.
So you formed an opinion as to whether or not there's any substantial negative impact with respect to the traffic.
That, yes, that there would not be any, that we are at good levels of service now, and we will continue to operate within acceptable levels of service. And in fact, the analysis that I performed showed no degradation in level of service.
I have no further questions.
One question, Ms. Tiger. Your means of egress, in and out, are you on page A1?
Yes.
You put it at the bottom, the map, the street
Yes.
map? The stuff?
The tax map or the, okay,
It's off 91st Street. That's 91st Street, right?
yes,
You can get in and out that way, right?
correct,
That's one way. 89th, you can get in and out, right?
correct.
It's two ways. 88th Street, you can get in and out, right?
I don't think 88th Street, it's at, I got 85th, 89th, and 91st. I don't think 88th ties in.
What was their car block? 89th?
88.
Management?
88.
88?
Yes.
That's the management?
Did you get it to the shopping center? Okay, yes, they're actually the fourth access point.
Well, stay with me. Going off again, 91st is 1. 89th is 2. You follow along?
Yep.
You agree? Now I want the opposition council to follow along. 91st is 1. 89th is 2. 88th is 3. Right? The next
Right.
little block is a dead end, that doesn't go in. But if you see 85th Street, take it down, you see a little road that goes into the complex? That's a gate controlled by the schools. Hudson County Schools have technology that opens when schools close. So it's open on weekends and open at nights. So that's means of getting out of the park. I don't need to let you in. And it's signed by, it's signage by Norbury DPW, put signs up and everything. So that's another egress that nobody knows about.
That little stub.
Yes. That opens. That opens when a school is closed.
And then 85th Street is a signalized intersection
Yes, it
at
is.
Tunneling.
Yes. The other point about the record is everybody's leaving that out.
That was a good point, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to make it correct. I don't want to make it points.
And I think that you strengthen my point in the sense that we have additional access.
I don't mean to do that.
No, I know, but the information you provided me provides even further justification that we have good dispersion of traffic, and not one access point or two access points will be inundated by our traffic that we'll be generating. It'll be dispersed.
Any questions for town engineer? Joe?
I just want to give the board, there was a discussion about parking and floor area regarding retail. Our ordinance is very consistent with what Mr. Steiner spoke about, and that is, this site is defined as a shopping center, and our shopping center requirements is based on a net floor area of 1 space per 300 square feet, and it provides that 15%, as you said, 85% of the building would be, if it was retail, would be for parking, and 15% is of the gross floor area. It can be deducted for areas that are devoted to mechanical rooms, equipment, stairs, hallways. So we had the discussion earlier about, the 3,600 square feet of showroom and retail, and it's consistent with our ordinance. I think that's important, whether the board likes the application or not. I think it's important that you realize that the parking calculation that was provided for the retail is consistent with our ordinance, as is the discussion of the shopping center being a net parking requirement with 15% of the overall site devoted to the infrastructure.
But there's a different question that's out there. How do you interpret when you have, and I think this was Mr. Weiner's point, if you have two zones, is it, do you accumulate them?
Yes.
You do
We
it?
always have.
Okay.
We've always looked at that 25% that's required to be the parking area, regardless of the number of spaces that are required, to be cumulative with if there are more than one use, because you always have, in any kind of industrial building, you're going to have an office. And that office space would then have to have parking in that area. So we've always looked at it, at least for the time that I've been doing this, we've looked at that 25% requirement as being inclusive of whatever parking is necessary. We have.
No, it was a question that came up with the architect.
Anyone else have a question for the architect?
Not architect,
I mean, the traffic engineer.
Mr. Slater, you mentioned that there is a level of service B and C on the 89th Street and Tunnelly,
Yes.
and is the same at the 91st and Tunnelly?
I didn't analyze those intersections because I don't believe that our majority of our traffic will be utilizing 89th Street. It's only probably the left turn outs that would be then transposed either to 85th or primarily 91st, because if you're going to make a left turn out, you're going to head north, so you'll come to the 91st Street intersection. But it's a minimal amount of traffic. We're probably talking in the order of about 10 or 20 trips per hour during the peak hour. It would not change to any significant degree the level of service at that intersection. So if it happened to be at level of service D or E at 91st Street, it'll remain at that level of service D or E, because it'll be a minimal increase to that intersection.
Because 89th Street doesn't have a traffic light and 91st Street has a traffic light. So you can say from this property also, most of the people who want to go north will go towards the 91st Street to make a left turn, and they, on 91st Street doesn't have a left turn signal. It has a regular signal, so you can the people who want to make a left turn, they have to wait till the oncoming traffic and has to clear the very little time to make a left turn.
Correct.
That's still in construction, though. Could be
But you don't have an idea that you can say what is the current level of 91st Street service?
Just for clarification, I thought Mr. Steiger was testifying if you're 91st Street traveling east as you're exiting to go make a left, you go up Tunnelly Avenue, go north. And I believe Mr. Mader is testifying, or asking questions about vehicles traveling north on Tunnelly Avenue, making a left moving on 91st Street.
Yeah, he was saying, when you come out of the shopping center, you come out 91st Street, you have to wait for light to make a left.
Is that, okay.
There's no left
Yeah,
turn
so
signal.
you're talking about exit movements, that's correct.
Exit, because you can from 89th Street, you can make a left and going north. So you have to go to the 91st Street to
Or 88th
or
Street, or come out by 85th Street. when school's
Yeah.
closed.
If 91st Street it becomes so busy, it would probably behoove you to go to 88th or to 85th. It's only a few hundred feet away, and make the left turn at that intersection. Just like water, it'll seek the least path of resistance. And if you get stuck at 91st Street, next time you go shopping there, you'll probably go to 85th Street and use that traffic signal.
Yeah, out of all these four, the ingress and egress area, most of the people use 91st Street. And in the summer, there's a swimming pool also there, and there's a lot of traffic coming because of that also.
I agree, but the increase to that intersection was minimal, and if it becomes a condition where it becomes unacceptable to some drivers, they'll use one of the other access points to even things out.
Okay? Anybody, board members have any other? Mr. Waiter? Oh, I find it.
Thank you.
Two minutes.
2 minutes?
I gave you a little extra here.
You are really being nice to me tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Before I get into that, based on some comments in this Hartman suggested, she said this is classified as a shopping center. Then why don't we have a request for shopping center use? I mean, either it is, this is my problem.
Well, it meets the definition of a shopping center.
Well, then perhaps it ought to be, I'm not presenting the application. All I know is somebody said retail with storage. It's because if this is a shopping center, then the minimum, I didn't see in your report that you didn't point out that they need 10 acres in the C2 zone for a shopping center.
Then I misspoke. But it's got the combined uses, it's got a variety of uses.
No, listen,
In one building.
I think I agree with you, and I'm not trying to be critical. So this, people would say, oh, it's a shopping center. I think when they talk about the shopping center, they're talking about the Walmart. I think this is a strip center, or it's only 3 stores actually, so.
But a strip center is also,
I know that it doesn't fit exactly, but the reason I raise it is because it goes to this parking calculation, that only that 15% is only, reduction is only permitted with shopping centers, and I don't think they presented it as such, so.
that's really not what that is what I said, but that's not exactly what I said.
Oh,
Our
okay.
ordinance talks to gross floor area, and it talks to net floor area. And it just happens to give you a calculation for the shopping centers that allow you to deduct a certain amount of area. The fact is that you're required to have 1 space per 300 square feet of net floor area. You all were talking gross floor area, and that's why I would just want the board to be aware, regardless of what they choose, that they should it's in section 7.
Yeah, 7.2, I see.
No, 7.6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, 7-6, it was 7.2. So if you look at all of them, some of the requirements are floor area, some are gross floor area, some are per dwelling unit, so they're individual. And
I agree,
Yeah.
the ordinance could probably be used in a plain that, but okay. All I see is that the 15% credit is only with respect to shopping centers.
And I was absolutely not trying to say that this is allowed to deduct 15%.
Oh,
Just-
okay.
If I misspoke, I apologize.
No, no.
What I was just saying is that that seems to correlate with what Mr. Steiger was saying as far as our parking requirements. But basically, our parking, as I see it, is 1 space per 300 square feet net floor area. And I would say that, you know, that's what they calculated it as, out. Clearly, that's how they calculated it out.
And That's under 7.2 retail store, that's what you're suggesting that
Retail
is
store.
net. But later on, in the shopping center, it's a net floor area.
And
Other places
it
say
says
gross floor area, and here they don't say anything.
Right.
So, that's, I guess, an interpretation question. I think we'll avoid. Okay, I think I clarified that. Mr. Steiger, how many days did you take actual counts of the property?
Most recently, 1 day.
1 day. What day was that?
It was Monday, it's in my report. November 21st, 2011.
And you took it between 4 and 6 p.m.?
Correct.
And you took those counts only on 89th Street, am I right?
Correct.
So you didn't count 91st Street?
No.
You didn't count 85th Street?
No.
In your report, you also talk about a certain distribution. And again, this is what I found out that opinion, but Mr. Queen asked me to ask you this question. You talked about distribution being, of all the traffic coming into the center, 40%, or at least generated here, 40% would come down 89th Street, and the balance would be split between 85th and 91st.
You're saying the proposed retail traffic, 40?
Let's see if I can find the page now.
Yes, I did. I projected that 40% of the site-generated traffic will utilize 89th Street, remaining 60% will utilize the other 2 access points.
All right, and if you didn't take any counts on the other, what's the basis for that opinion?
Well, that, for one factor, you're going to lose at least 25% in the rain because you can't make left turns out from the site. So out of the 3 movements that you come into the site and out of the site, one of those movements, 1 out of the 4, aren't discounted right away. And if you're coming from the south, this is center, almost center of the shopping center. If you're coming from the south, you could make a right-hand turn into 85th or 88th Street and come to the site. And if you're coming from the north, utilize 91st Street. So
What I'm saying is you picked numbers. You said it's going to be 40 and then 60 elsewhere. What's the data that you relied on to come to those specific numbers?
there is no specific magic formula in any documentation anywhere that I could plug into an equation and come up with exact numbers. Much of what traffic engineering is about is judgment. And where people will likely come from as opposed to calculating where they'll be coming from.
Well, if you counted, then you'd know. If you took a couple of counts, you'd have a pretty good idea of the total traffic, and you could figure out what the percentage is coming and going, right? I would have told you the answer.
No, it would,
No?
it would not have given me a definitive answer. I still would have to use my judgment to determine where they're coming to and from the site.
Yeah, but you'd have a whole lot more real data to rely on other than just your judgment.
It would not exactly give me a finite number. So I'd still have to use a good part of judgment in making that
So
determination.
why didn't you just use your judgment to figure out how many trips were coming down 89th Street? If you can do it that way, why'd you take any counts at all?
Well, I needed a basis to figure out what levels of service would be at 89th Street.
And don't you think you needed the same basis to make a determination as to distribution among the 3 streets?
No,
No, you don't. Okay. Now, how many counts did you take? You didn't take any counts on Saturday
no,
at all? Saturday's a busy day.
no, but I
Let
utilized,
me ask you.
I
You
did
took any
not
counts on
take
Saturday?
any.
Whoa, Mr. Wine.
I asked if you took any counts on
No,
Saturday.
I understand, but he was explaining his answer.
Well,
And this is
Okay.
much more liberal than a court of law. Are you explaining your answer, Mr. Stein?
Yes, yes.
Please explain.
I did utilize counts from other sources to establish the Saturday volumes. And the other sources being the Langen traffic report, DOT counts.
Now, did you include the Langen traffic report and you provide that to the board?
No, it's part of the board's record in that application.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's that application, that's a different record. I mean, here, do you have that report that we could, I'd be able to take a look at and evaluate?
I think if you go to the township hall and request that information, but I do not have it here, no.
All right. Would you be able to provide me with a copy after tonight?
I could probably provide you specific pages from it, but not the full report. I don't have a copy of the full report.
Well, whatever you use, could you provide me with whatever you have?
If the chairman wants me to provide it, I'm happy to provide it to the board.
Yeah, why not? That's a fair question. It's test, Mr. Steiger, you said, listen, I'm testifying based on my count, based on DOT report, and based on the Langen report.
Correct.
So his question is, what in the Langen report? So that's a fair question.
Yeah, the billed traffic volumes in the Langen report, it is figure number 7. And I'd be happy to provide you a copy of it.
I'm just looking for,
It's not in my traffic report.
Oh.
It's in my file.
did you even refer to the Langen report in your report here?
Look for the word Langen in the report. I probably did not, no.
All right, so no way anybody that was reading your report before you just testified about this that would have any idea that a part of your opinion is based upon some other study that was not submitted to anybody or the board.
No, but I did refer to the DOT traffic counts as well as the traffic count that we performed as
Okay,
well.
okay, that's fair enough. I just talking about Langen. Now, let's talk about the DOT report. Now, what kind of DOT report are you referring to? What-
Traffic counts.
Traffic counts on Conway Avenue?
On Conway Avenue.
So are those yearly traffic counts?
I'd have to go through my report to find that out.
Well,
I don't know off the top of my head.
Why don't you take the time you need to answer the question?
I can stand here all night, and I'm not going to answer the question because I don't have it off the top of my head. I don't have the information
It doesn't
right
matter.
now.
Well, he said he's relying on a study that's in his report, and he doesn't want to answer the question.
No, that's not what he said. He said he doesn't have it off the top of his head.
Oh, it's not in your, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, it's not in your report?
The data from the DOT count is not in my report, no.
Would you be willing to provide that? If you had it somewhere else at a later time?
I'd
so we
be
can-
willing to provide it, yes.
All right. So which study, do you know which, at least what the study was, what the year was?
Traffic counts that the DOT has on their website.
Okay, I appreciate it, because there was one page here that you attached. Well, somewhere, I can find it. It was sort of an unreadable page, was this. Is this what you're talking about? Is this part of the DOT stuff?
That is.
Well, I couldn't read it, so that's
I-
fine.
I-
What page is that?
I don't know. It's not,
It's in the appendix. It's one of the straight line diagrams. It does have a 2007 volume. It does not have a 2010 volume, which I have in my report. So it may be one of the sources. It is a average annual daily traffic volume. It's not an hourly volume, but the detailed count is provided on the DOT website. That's probably where I got the volume from.
DOT website?
Yep.
And, if I can find it, I will. If I can't, I'll let you know if that's okay.
Sure.
So now, these two DOT studies that you rely on, these are straight line, they go out and just count the cars on a yearly
Yeah,
basis, right?
These aren't studies.
These are counts.
traffic counts, yes.
So they just count the number of cars going up and down Conway Avenue?
Correct.
And these were yearly counts on the 2007?
They give you daily volumes, but they also give you hourly volumes on the website, the
Do
breakdown.
they break it down by hour, higher or lower?
Hourly.
Yeah, so they have, all right, so.
The purpose of where I went to these sources was to get an overall base volume on Tunnelly Avenue. So based on the information, our counts back in 2006, the DOT counts, which there are 2, and the Langen counts that were done for existing and proposed conditions, gave me a volume, a relative volume on Tunnelly Avenue. It wasn't based on actual counts that I took on Saturday, but I was able to make a reasonable projection that I believe is accurate to establish volumes on Tunnelly
So-
Avenue for Saturday.
So they have, these studies, they have different, if I looked at 4 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning, the numbers would be different? Or is this just they take
I
a,
believe so. Again, I'm going from my recollection, but yes, there should be a breakdown of the hourly volumes in the DOT
so
website.
did you use the data for the hours at the peak hours, or did you just use an average hour during the day?
Well, again, the weekday was actually counted. We
I know.
counted that.
I understand.
We're talking, your question related to Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. I utilized that data to project what the Saturday volumes will be on Tony Avenue on a peak hourly basis.
All right, so what you did is you took a count on Monday afternoon, and you applied some formula to it to come up with what would be on Saturday.
And then,
Saturday.
right, and then, but then compared it to the DOT data, as well as the Langen data, as well as 2006 data that we performed in traffic count, to establish, are we within a reasonable margin of error? And I believe that we are.
All right. Let me just, let's see if I understand this. The Monday counts, what did you actually count? You're counting cars that are where?
Counted cars at the intersection of Tunley Avenue and 89th Street. So when cars went southbound, we counted them. When they made a left turn into 89th Street, we counted them. When they made a right turn out of 89th Street, we counted them on a 15-minute basis and to get a peak hourly volume.
So the counts that you did involved the most important counts for the purposes of evaluating traffic here were the ones where the cars were turning in and out of 89th Street. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right. The state studies don't have that. They just have general background volumes on Tunley Avenue.
Correct.
So
Yes.
you took some factor based upon those background volumes, applied it to the Monday counts you took, and came up with the Saturday.
Yes, yes. We replicated using those factors, using ITE rates for the shopping center to establish what, we know that there's a, so for instance, we know that 100 cars per hour are being generated during the weekday peak hour, and we know the ratio between weekday peak hours and Saturday peak hours based on ITE trip generation rates. We have I believe, a accurate projection of what the Saturday volumes will be based on the differential of a weekday peak hour and the Saturday peak hour based on ITE.
All right. Was there something that prevented you from counting Saturday?
No.
All right.
But
I've been in a number of cases with you, Mr. Steiger, and every one of your reports, I've always seen dozens of them, or maybe not quite that many, but quite a few. I've always seen you do a number of counts, multiple counts, and there's always a Saturday count.
Always
Is there
count.
some reason you decided that was not a good idea here?
Because we have a multitude of other sources that all pretty much fell in line with one another, we didn't have to go out there and do an additional count.
All right, if you were looking for, if you needed a highway access permit here, if you were over 100, am I correct? If your trip generation showed over 100, that would be considered significant, and you might have to get permission from DOT because this is on a state road, right? No?